Hello and welcome back, everyone. Flavor Friday. Today we are going to be taking a look at the Inca flavor for the game with the upcoming game with the codename of Project Caesar. This is pretty exciting. I generally do like playing in the Peru region in a lot of these types of games, but very often they don't have that much flavor. So we're going to be jumping in and taking a look. Already the religion of them looks pretty strong with plus 80% satisfaction on the peasants. If you choose to go in that particular direction, which seems incredibly strong for the investment that you have to give up on it. And so it's going to be exciting to be going through this. Of course, we say like 80% of these are exciting, so maybe we should start voicing our language a little bit differently, but maybe it's just we're excited, and that's more on me than it is on you. Or of course, maybe it's on you too. The excitement, big nice. Now, let's get into it. Hello and welcome to one more Friday to the Tinto flavor. Again, Pavia is welcoming the Friday. He happies the Wednesday, he welcomes the Friday. This is clearly code. We need to find the code breakers. We need to figure this out. I do believe that the secrets to when the game is released is held in whether it's welcoming one more Friday or happying the Wednesday. I believe he's speaking in code. He's trying to send us a message, in which we take a look at the flavor content of Europa Universalis 5. Also, yet another code, because everyone knows this is an anagram for the real title of the game, which is Arouse Rival Veins Up. That is Arouse Rival Veins Up, a much more reasonable name for a game. This is just an anagram for that game. But continuing onward onward and upward for us, certainly upward up into the mountains if we're talking about Peru. Today we will take a look at the flavor content of Inca. Let's start without further ado. Of course, no more ado after this, unless you count the colon. Okay. The high volcanoes and vast rivers of the Andes Mountain hide and nourish the sacred valley of the Incas, where we, the sons of the sun, dwell in magnificent city of Cusco, as we prepare for the glorious future that awaits us. After years of consolidation and politics, the time has come for our people to expand their influence outside our great valley, to defeat our enemies and follow in the paths of the mountains that reach the corners of this world. The mountains are oppressive in Peru. Are we ready to take on our destiny, or will those who oppose us beat us before we reach our prime? Okay. So here we have the county of Cusco. We do see here there are 10 country flavor things that are available here per the UI, which is giving us a hint as to how much there is here, which is... For context, when we had access to the game for our Korea video, which, by the way, we've had access to the game, and so this will give us a little bit of insight when we talk about modifiers and such, but when we had access, the pain of salvation is so loud, though. When we had access, we got to see a bunch of these other ones. Countries like, I think Venice has 25 of these. I think France and England both have in the 20s. The Ottoman Empire has the most of these with 44. So just giving kind of a frame of reference for the amount of flavor in a country. And this is specifically the country bonuses, excluding, unless the UI for this has changed, excluding cultural bonuses and religious bonuses. Or stuff that is unlocked by that. Also government type, like monarchies unlock certain ones, and republics unlock certain ones, this type of thing, etc. Mostly, etc. As per usual, consider all things work in progress, including ourselves. It's called personal development. Okay, so we do see in the mountains of Peru, Cusco for ourselves. And here we can see, if we can find them on a map in here, I believe they're right there. And so there is some consolidation to be done to bring up the Inca to their glory. Cusco has quite a unique start in the middle of the Andes. Let's start by taking a look at the estates panel as usual. The countries of the region, including Cusco, start with a unique government reform, Andean monarchy. And this actually looks pretty good. We see that we can use 2 different types of marriages. I don't know what that means. We see it has pan costs. We'll be looking at that in a moment. I assume they are going to show us that building. And then we see monthly development plus 0.001. Now, if you have max prosperity, the amount of flat dev you get, if I recall correctly, is 0.005. So this represents a 20% increase in terms of dev development, which is, you know, too many D's in one phrase. But for this, it's important to note that mountains get like a minus 80% or minus 75% or some minus 50%, some enormous penalty to dev. And so you will still dev really slowly in this region, but this is a pretty strong modifier and does help to overcome that, at least to some extent. I do think that this is pretty strong, and obviously you can just, like, rat out somewhere else. You could just move your government or what you're doing to somewhere else and not live in the mountains, and still keep this modifier, as far as I can tell. So, rat out being a civilization term where you are about to get conquered, so you found a city just way far away, where they can't get to you. But taking a look here, as you see, it unlocks a bunch of mechanics. The first is the Panacas, where we see this enables the building, and we will see it's a government type building. I think that's the Age of Traditions there for us. Of course, we start with the text, so that makes sense. It is employed by 250 peasants, so doesn't require any employment. We see that it can be built in any sort of place. It does seem to have some special requirement per the green checkmark that we don't know what it is, but the effects are pretty bad. So I assume you're going to start with some of these and you're going to want to get rid of them. Crown power minus 100%. Levy size plus 33%. There's a lot of sources of levy size. And so levy size plus 33% just doesn't seem anywhere remotely in the realm of worth this crown power trade-off, unless you already have 0% crown power in an area. If you already have 0 crown power, then I guess giving up an additional 100% doesn't do anything negative to you, unless it can go negative, in which case it's positive, or I'm not even sure what would happen if it went negative. I assume that it can't go negative, but this is just an absolutely enormous malice, and it's like, it's not even remotely worth this. So I'm guessing more of what you're going to be doing is going to be trying to delete these buildings. They are instantly built at the death of the ruler by this. Okay, well, that makes some sense. They are instantly built by the death of the ruler by this event. The Panaca of Cusco, with the death of the last great monarch, the royal family has distributed our lands to the old Panaca. Once again, the cycle has started anew, and the current Awikwi has to establish his legacy through conquest. Again, apologies, I can't pronounce anything here. But as is tradition. As you can see here, the Panacas are a double-edged sword. They look mostly bad. They increase levy size, but the cost of removing crown power from the location they're built in. Therefore, they might potentially be very good buildings for locations distant from the capital, where you have low control, while being very negative for the locations close to your capital. You have to have really close to 0 crown power. The thing is like, where you have really low control, the flat amount of levies you get anyways is just trash. Or you have a negative levy modifier. So I guess when you have like minus 50% levies plus 33% levies is actually a lot more helpful, because it's effectively plus 66% levies. I mean, the math, the building just looks turbo bad, but they can be removed, though, at the cost of 10 legitimacy, which we had seen this kind of on our Discord. The link is down below if you wanted to join some discussion by bringing up the legitimacy. It just seems like you want to get rid of these, and you're going to be trying to get rid of these, and you are going to prioritize places that are heavily urbanized or close to the capital, this type of thing, in terms of how you think of it. The 2 other actions that are unlocked are connected. We get the Nusta marriage. We will propose one of our marriageable female characters, who's either nobility or clergy, for marriage with the target country's ruler. When accepted, the character moves to the target country, and they gain a plus 100 opinion. Alright, fair enough. And then we could use this other marriage, which will they'll be married off to a local governor of target province. So that's a province, not a location. Province will have like 5 locations, in it, roughly speaking, where it will give minus unrest and minus separatism. Alright, fair enough. There's a cabinet action that can be used to recruit Acilius, the characters that you marry through former actions. Clergy, estate, satisfaction, equilibrium. Interesting. So I generally rate the clergy satisfaction equilibrium pretty highly, but I just don't think it's worth a cabinet action to get plus 5%. A little bit interesting here. but we gain characters for this interaction. I mean, okay. I imagine that's not going to be how we want to use it, but if we're leaning on Navy, which I think you do as the Inca, Dev Province as an interaction is less important, so maybe you do kind of do it that way. By the way, we already reworked a marriage unlocked by the Inti religions that we presented on Wednesday, as it is a new marriage policy, polygamy. Okay, we see female spouses, and the policy is polygamy. Okay. Fair enough. The policy is set to fit and work alongside the Nusta marriage and the Asilia recruitment, so Andean countries can set strong diplomatic bonds amongst them if they wish. Oh, so you get extra marriages, effectively. Interesting. Are we understanding this correctly? So we get, we can unlock marriages that we unlock characters for with a cabinet action that allow us to reduce unrest and separatism. It just seems not worth it for this type of action, but it is interesting. Okay. Andean countries also have a unique privilege system available at start, the Mita system, which is going to be peasant to state, plus 0 satisfaction, plus power. Very often, I think it's just kind of... estate satisfaction, I think, is a pretty good modifier, just in general, and so often if these are just neutral, it's like worth it to give power away for satisfaction, I think. But this allows peasants to migrate. Building cost minus 10%. Wow. There's another one that's available for all nations. I don't know if it this replaces that one, because it does look a little bit similar. That gives building cost minus 5%. But as you start stacking building cost modifiers, they start like becoming more and more effective. There is minus building cost modifier for development. I forget exactly what the scaling on that is, but as you get more and more of these, this is a pretty big deal. It gives you monthly progress towards serfdom, not ideal. Pop assimilation speed. Base assimilation is really slow. I don't know if this helps with the cabinet actions, though. The cabinet action's very, very fast for assimilation. Base assimilation's, like, particularly slow. But okay. Unless they've changed it, which is something we had left feedback on. Andean countries also have several unique buildings that are unlocked by some of the advances available in the Age of Traditions. We do see, of course, the Age of Traditions icon. This can be built in any sort of location that is a town, rural area, town, city. Really do love the UI change here that they have kind of implemented here. But this gives extra pop capacity. Wow, 15% food production. Now, you can only build one of these. It doesn't have the arrows up banner, which denotes that you can build multiple of them. But this is kind of... this isn't a lot of pop capacity. The big one is the food production plus 15%. This does seem pretty good. And it's not like it has really expensive upkeep or anything like that. And so... I assume you'll be slapping these down first in every place that produces food, and then kind of in a bunch of other locations. Food production modifiers, also important to note, is there's kind of a good chunk of them. So maybe don't regard this as like hyper insane, but one of the downsides of upgrading from rural areas to towns or cities is losing out on food production modifier. And generally speaking, I think that you just shouldn't think of that malice as being that substantive as a result of just there being kind of a lot of available food production modifiers. I still think that they're pretty good. They're like turbo insane if you don't have enough food, right? And then if you have enough food, I think food just as a modifier kind of falls off. But as you have more food production modifiers, you effectively can get more urban areas, and more urban areas are stronger, in my estimation, just in general. And so this ups you could think of it as upping your urban ratio in some sort of sense. But yeah, I do think that in general you do want to move towards urbanization, and so this is a tension that is created between like the food production modifiers and this type of thing. And so that this is yeah, I think that's kind of a decent way of looking at it. This is helping out your ratio rather than providing you with something super, super critical, although you do want to fill up all your food capacity. You also get extra pop growth from extra food production, so that's a little bit hard to evaluate. I do need to take a closer look at pop growth next time I get my hands on the game or something like this. We will see Pucara, a unique defensive building. Fort level 1. Don't see a lot of things that are fort level 1, only in rural areas. It does look like... Are those soldiers with a unique icon? Those do look like soldiers, but we have a unique icon here for Flavour for Inca. I'm not sure we've seen that before. So is a bunch of different things gonna get a unique icon like that for like soldiery? I think that's the first we've seen of it. That's so neat. Have we seen this before? I don't think we've seen this before. Very cool. Okay, okay, it'll be a small fort in a rural area. I kind of like forts that have really low upkeep and don't require a lot of pops, and also are just kind of low fort level. I have to take a look at like all these together. They are expensive on the gold, but like one of the main ideas here is you're paying for a zone of control thing more than anything else. Rather than having a massive fort. There is some value also towards having additional soldiers in areas where you have any type of recruitment, because having more soldiers will make it so that the negative effects of losing pops because they die in a war will deplete your manpower producing buildings less. So if we have a training ground, I think that's the name of one of the rural manpower producing buildings, and it employs 500 soldiers, and this employs 250 soldiers, and it gives some amount of manpower, right? When we lose manpower, when manpower people die, they are taken from soldiers in locations that have manpower producing buildings, is my understanding. So that 750 might go down to 740, which will proportionally dilute the recruitment building down less when we have a fort available in the area, which means that as the recruitment building goes from 500 like ability to recruit, or 500 soldiers down to 400 in terms of, or down to 490 in terms of its employment, you'll actually generate less manpower. So as you lose soldiers in war, you actually generate manpower slower. And something that offsets this slightly is the production of defensive buildings, which have soldiers as their available employment in areas that already have these like recruitment buildings. But also, there are things like villages, which just give base soldiers, and those could be produced in rural areas. These effectively allow you to overproduce soldiers, so that when you start losing some in war, you effectively don't decrease employment on your buildings. So having additional soldiers potentials that you can upgrade into does have some value if you're going to have a really long, drawn-out, drag-out affair of a war. And so, a little bit interesting to think through, but I imagine you're just kind of putting these in rural areas that are important on key choke points, but you don't want to commit an entire fort to. It looks like it has to be placed in a hill or mountainous terrain, though, and that's what the green checkmark denotes as a special requirement. It serves as both weapon storage and defensive fortification. They incorporate difficulty of the terrain into their design, making them comparably cheaper and easier to construct and maintain than regular forts. So I think that you're just going to look to put a ton of these in more rural. Obviously it has to be in rural areas, but in rural mountain areas. Incidentally, I think mountains are kind of one of the things we did discuss a little bit, upgrading things from rural to town to city. I do think mountains, as a result of having so many malices to like pop capacity and also to development growth, I think that mountains generally you want to keep rural. So generally, not always, but often. I think you need a strategic reason for wanting to push a mountain to not be rural, like needing to build a poundlock canal on a river or something like this. Next up we have terraces, which honestly this should be something that China has access to too, no? And this looks very, very, very powerful. I don't know if that's a laborer or a peasant, or is that a peasant? Are these... Again, we see icons that are new. Very, very cool. I think that is a laborer that is culture specific. So we are seeing new types of art in the UI here. And we do see that this is an infrastructure building. It has special requirement. I'm guessing it's mountains or hills. And we will see plus 50% food production, which is a lot bigger. Terraces are sloped areas for the purpose of effective farming in the complex terrain of the Andes. Constructed on different height levels, these terraces can provide prime soil for many different crops in a close area. Now, we see the specific language of the Andes, so it might be the case that you can only build in the Andes region or area or what have you, and you can only build in mountains or hills, this thing. But this is an example where we see like a layer of several things going on here. in terms of ideas, where we get a malus upgrading a rural area to a town, we get a malus to food production. Also, we want to keep mountains rural anyways. And so in rural areas that are mountainous, that have food RGOs, being able to stack a terrace there, and then also being able to stack an Inca Kamisana there, giving us, plus 65% and a little bit of flat pop capacity, which is generally... The flat capacity, I think, is driven more by vegetation than anything else. But this is plus 65% food production. So our mountainous areas can really support a lot of urbanization on the coast in terms of the food production, or even look to export food and this type of stuff, because this is quite a bit of food. Okay. Now take a look at some of the unique advances available for the Cusco. I apologize if I'm pronouncing all this incorrectly. We have the Mitma obligations giving us another 0.001 development on top of our unique government type. Wow. I mean, I think that the idea is that this helps you to keep up because of the fact that you have like all mountains, so your dev is going to be trash. But if you take and conquer other areas and this type of stuff, I really like having 0.001 dev. I mean, it's not a lot, but it adds up over time, and it does stuff over time. I mean, it's really good for propagating control over land, I feel like. I mean, it's also good for propagating it over rivers as well. It just doesn't like effectively self-stack, or not rivers, coastal areas. It doesn't self-stack in the way that it does one land location to another. When you're using sea zones, it doesn't, you don't get the chain of multiple areas together, or multiple locations. But I think there's also an estate privilege that gives you 0.001 that everyone has access to, and so the kind of baseline might be 0.006, and then with this, plus the unique government type or gov reform that you have at the start, you're effectively getting 33% more base dev than other countries. Which, that seems pretty good. I mean, it's base dev, but like, okay, the problem is you're in an area that's pretty mountainous, but it is a bit interesting to see a bit of that. We see non-culture levy size plus 15%. This is not very strong, because I believe you generate like less levies from pops as they're less accepted, or certainly as you have less control, and negative satisfaction does lead to lower control. Non-culture, or I guess maybe you could have, this doesn't say non-accepted actually. Okay, actually, this seems fine. Plus 15% levies. So the idea is you can accept another culture and get them high satisfaction, incorporate them, this type of thing, and they aren't your culture, and then you get plus 15% levies. I think that... I'm not sure how long you lean on levies, but okay, this seems okay, fine-ish. We have another Age of Traditions tech that unlocks the building, the Tambo building. If this is another food building, I swear to God. Okay, so we see that it is... a little bit of an inclination of where it can be built, because we do have this checkmark. So reading through this, they serve as road stops for passing travelers, while larger ones serve as office for provincial administration. I'm going to go on a limb and assume that they are built in that they're going to be mountainous terrain. We do see that it gives soldiers... Wait, what's this? See, this is the normal soldiers icon that we were referring to. So they might have screenshots from two different periods here. This is the updated soldier icon for the culture. So I think that they're in the middle of implementing this art as they were writing this, probably. Okay. Well, 5% garrison growth just doesn't seem like that strong a modifier. I don't really feel like I have too good a grasp on necessarily how good this stuff's going to be, or garrison growth is going to be, like, just generally speaking. The garrison is run by soldiers, as far as I know, so you have to have enough soldiers for this to work. It is a way you can add more soldiers to a location, though, which has that positive dilution effect that we discussed earlier. Also, I don't know what soldiers... I don't know exactly how levies work with soldier pops. I know if you have nobles, you'll get noble levies and this type of stuff. I don't know if there are particularly good soldier levies, but you could look at this as just the perspective of creating levies. It's not a very expensive building here. The upkeep's not insane. It looks like it's a little bit of maize and a little bit of fabric, or wool, which tend to be price collapsed anyways, so it's functionally like close to zero upkeep, and you can use it from the perspective of transforming pops into soldiers. I don't know how valuable this is. I don't have a very strong intuition for which levies coming from which pops or which strength levels, because that requires like a little bit of like diving deep, looking at spreadsheets, looking at stats, looking at all this type of stuff in a very close-up type of manner. But if you really I think more of the... I don't think garrison growth is that strong a modifier. More of it might be just turning pops into soldiers. It's probably not that good a building. Specifically, it can be hard to get soldiers in... There are villages that give, I think, plus 50 soldiers. You can build those in rural areas, but you'd have to build 5 villages. The base cost for that is 50, though, and the villages do other stuff as well, like employing peasants, which is pretty valuable because peasants don't require any qualifications. But if you're trying to increase soldier counts in towns and cities, maybe this is an okay building. Looks like we can only build one of them. It doesn't have the up arrows indicating multiples. Okay, moving on, we have the Quipu, which gives max literacy for clergy. That's a lot of literacy. I think clergy tend to get capped, though, anyways, like at 100, in which case extra literacy is not as helpful for them. I'm really unsure about this, though. This isn't something I've checked super closely, and so if this is increasing it, like, this is quite... As far as techs increasing literacy go, this is actually a very large number. I just think that literacy on clergy is, generally speaking, less valuable than literacy on most other... It increases your assimilation and conversion rate, if I recall correctly, or something like this. I forget what it gives, but I just remember that feeling like literacy on clergy was not one of the better ones, and literacy on burghers what is it? Peasants seem like the two better ones. Peasants because it just generally increases your literacy, and burghers, you tend to have a lot more burghers than you do clergy members, and so increasing your overall literacy in locations is important, and they don't contribute in a weighted sort of way. So because you don't have a lot of clergy members, plus 20% clergy is not going to add a lot of additional clergymen or additional overall literacy to a location, because you don't have enough clergymen for it to do that. Okay. If you have really low pop areas, though, which you might have in the mountainous areas, and you have something that increases base clergy members, which there are estate privileges that do that, I suppose that this might have a little bit more of an effect, but it'll be by virtue of you having really underpopulated areas. Okay. Drafted a Hatun Runas, Age of Discovery, peasant levy size plus 10%. Okay, fair enough. That seems like not something we'd actively seek out to research, but okay. And then we see Adapted Inca Army, Age of Reformation, Military Tactics plus 0.1. My understanding this is a very strong modifier, but I don't understand military all that well at this juncture, so... Okay, but wait, there's more. If you buy in the next 30 minutes, you will get a second box of OxyClean. But also, we've talked about Cusco, but not about the Inca, which was supposed to be the topic of the Tinto flavor. That is because it is another piece of content for today, the formable Inca Empire. So that was the flavor we saw for Cusco. Now we see the flavor for Inca. We will upgrade our country rank to Empire. Very nice. That jump from county to kingdom is much less significant than from Kingdom to Empire, which gives an additional cabinet action, which is very strong in the early game. Proportion, because like base cabinet actions is 2, so getting 50% more cabinet actions is really, really nice. And then it also gives an additional cultural like integration slot, and you only start out with 1. There's a lot of text and stuff that will give more, but this also represents an ability to accept a lot more pops, and as you accept more pops, you get to have more core locations. Cusco starts with 2 locations and may have to grow up to 62 to be able to form the Inca Empire. 62 is not a lot. For a frame of reference, Portugal is 69 locations. So yeah, challenging Rag to Riches campaign. Is it though? Is it, the challenge might be that there's not enough areas to conquer, and you actually have to colonize areas, which does take a while, especially if you don't have a lot of pops. As you see, if you form it, you'll get a new government reform that will replace the Indian monarchy, which is the Taiwan Tsuyu monarchy, where we will get an additional development. Oh. So instead of 0.001, we get 0.002. We get an additional possible gov reform. Very nice. Administrative efficiency 5%. And then kind of some of the other stuff. But this does mean extra dev. Wow. Man. I forget what the malice is for mountains. The malice for mountains is really bad, though, is the thing. So many of your locations like are just going to be relatively low dev. It's very interesting that we're seeing so much dev on the Inca. We haven't seen, like, multiple dev modifiers on any other nation other than the Incas so far. And if you just go somewhere else and you just move the capital to, like, Colombia, which I think has a patch of flat area and some really, really strong resources, you can just go really hard. And also, this monthly dev, you have mountainous areas, but you have mountainous areas that have, like, really good resources in them. The extra dev there, allowing for new RGO levels, is, like... is nice. Yeah, this is kind of interesting to think through as we go through it. But so as you can see, much of the content available for Cusco is based on mechanics. However, it still has some to play with. The best alpha in the Andes, Aqua in the Andes. This guy, our ruler's wife, this gal, is known as one of the best brewers in this region. Her ability to turn maize kernels into delicious beverage was one of the deal sweeteners that helped us to sign the royal marriage between us and this other nation, despite their long history of rivalry and border fiction. Today, Kusi has again prepared her famous drink. Should this guy enjoy it as always? Of course we drink it. Oh no! She is up to something. Expel her. No, it's betrayal. She has poisoned our boy, and by the time the guards came to help him, he was already dead in the floor of the throne room. But the treachery does not end there, as the warrior, this guy, has also seized the opportunity, and instead of punishing the poisoner, he has stolen the throne for himself and started calling himself the Sapa Inca. No! The aftermath of what's going on. As the dust settles, and our new ruler has secured power in a new position of his dynasty, it is time to decide what to do with her family. The Hurin Cusco family. Their connections and experience as priests and bureaucrats can still be of great utility, but any remaining grudges may become a problem if they keep positions of power in the country. So they will only keep their duties to the Inti. They get priesthood thing, which gives us legitimacy and stab. And it gives us this tolerance to true faith plus 0.1, progress towards decentralization, yuck, plus 0.1, and much more. Oh. I guess this is our only option. They keep their duties, and so a little bit of a coup action here. I mean, so this doesn't look that great, but plus 10% satisfaction on the priesthood is good, because they do give extra tech. So this is something we're kind of interested in, and much more. But that's all for today. Next week we will have a Tinto Maps of Feedback on Monday, a Tinto Tax on Wednesday, and a Tinto Flavor on Friday. Roger will host all of them, as I'll be off the entire week, doing things of a thingly nature. Pavia been leaving us secret messages, and now he leaves. Johan has been gone for some time now. We know that he is trapped in a trunk somewhere in Sitges, and maybe Pavia is going to free him. Certainly the loud car here will be of no use to them in Spain. Everyone knows the roads. It's not you can't just drive around this small town with cobbled roads. Small town, or tourist town, let's call it. And host all of them, as I'll be off the entire week. A likely story. But we do see the news here. It's all about China, the Middle Kingdom, the Chinese IO, and the Tinto Flavor about China. So this is a pretty big deal. This is one of the biggest remaining things for us to go over in terms of the Tinto talks. This has been kind of the elephant in the room. The 100 Years' War and China are the two biggest things that have yet to be reviewed, and we are seeing China next week. So that's kind of a big one. See you in a couple of weeks. So does this imply he's off next week and the following week? I think it does. Technically, he would be seeing us a week and a half if he's off for 1 week. Also, Pavia is relatively precise. And so I think he does mean couple when he says 2. Not a few, which is 3 to 8. Or that's how we think of a few. Everyone has a different definition of what a few is. For me, it's 3 to 8. Because for 2, you would just say a couple. Yeah, that has been our little look at Inca. Who actually, I'm actually, like, thrilled by the stacking this development modifier, like, potential. It's just, you're gonna have really low dev because you're in mountainous terrain for it, but it is a bit interesting. Also, like, some really strong food potential modifiers, but I think that it's on the unique buildings, and I think that it's very likely that these are just relegated to not only Hills Mountains only, but also perhaps the Incan region. So we'll see how that goes, but very strong modifiers in there as well. So kind of seeing quite a good amount of power here. Or maybe not an enormous amount of power, but an interesting thing with the tons of development and food allow you to kind of build up an empire in a very inhospitable area. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, you could feel free to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. And other than that, have a good one, everyone.